Hello everyone, it's Sascha and I've got a pleasure today of sitting next to Robert from the Kosciuszko Institute. He's an expert in everything in the cybersecurity market. So thanks for being here, Robert.
Thanks for the invitation.
Now, the name of your institute, the think tank, Kosciuszko Institute, right? We were just talking a little bit earlier, my favorite Polish hero, and I believe you said something interesting just a moment ago. It was...
Yeah, generally, we are still waiting for a Hollywood movie about Kosciuszko, because his life itself, it's like better than a book, better than a movie that you've seen in Hollywood. So we're gonna probably see this kind of movie in the next years, I hope.
Yeah, no, a fascinating person in history. All right, so also one topic I'm interested in is we were chatting a little bit about the perception of cyber and infosecurity companies and market saturation compared to, let's say, Europe, Eastern Europe, the other parts of the world. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so generally when you think as a cybersecurity company or generally provider or service or product, when you think about different markets, there are different challenges. And we see this all the time, both as the ones who are helping companies to enter different markets, as well as the ones who are organizing trade fairs in Central and Eastern Europe, CyberSec Expo. So the saturated markets, when you think, for example, about the United States, the market is educated more or less, like at least the key industries are educated both on the business level as well as on the technical, of course. And there is this connection between CISOs and their boards and more or less, as I mentioned one more time, not always, but you see that you don't have to educate your clients. Yeah. Someone did it for you before.
Yeah.
But it's also a challenge, because if the market is educated, it's also saturated. So your client, your potential client will ask you, okay, so what's the difference between the kind of product or service I'm already using and the ones that you can provide? And usually, as you know, there's already like a culture history in specific companies. And everyone, when you think about change management and change in big companies, that's their best, I would say, side of the operations. Yeah. But when it comes to the not so saturated markets, of course, the possibilities are bigger, I would say. So there is a lot of area.
So where's that area where you see the most potential?
When it comes to next years, I would say Central and Eastern Europe, because we've seen a rapid, and that's also something that we've seen in our reports analysis as the Institute. There is a rapid digitalization. At least we see a lot of funds, both public, European funds, that are, I would say, going into this direction. Digitize your industries. At the same time, there are more and more, at least we hope there will be more and more educated customers there. And this is also the challenge in this Central and Eastern Europe, Central Asia markets. You have to educate your client first, because this lack of saturation is also the lack of education before. If the client knows he needs cybersecurity products and services, it's not only IT guys that he can have in the back of his office, then it's usually someone who provided it before.
So we've noticed that as well in our vendor relations, like we're looking at something like here in Eastern Europe and in Poland specifically, but also really a lot of potential, as you said, in Central Asia, looking into also the Gulf region and further east. So I think a lot of opportunity, especially from vendors and companies coming from this part of the world, in Central and Eastern Europe, to look out into those regions. And also next, going into, as we were already mentioning, Europe, right? We've seen recently the new European Commission under Leyen, and a lot of initiatives coming out of Brussels right now, really, center stage recently, with this whole initiative of trying to take cloud storage back and data storage back from the United States and China. There's talk about forcing companies into a universal charger, AI face ban for the next 5 years. So we have Brussels being very, very loud, center stage, right? So it's probably a good time to be in Brussels, and I think you have a little bit more to tell us about that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you see about the main, I would say, the main points of the agenda for the new European Commission, you will see that digital, it's almost everywhere there. So it's something that we already seen, of course, in the last years of the last Commission. Juncker. But here, even more importantly, we see also the new round, so to say, of the European funding going in the next years to be decided. And therefore, the political agenda is somehow combined now with the kind of funding agenda. And we're going to see not only the regulation on the one side, as you mentioned, but also kind of investment when it comes to specific areas of digital innovation for the next few years, 5-7 years. Therefore, of course, it is worth to all be in these discussions. First and foremost, as the Institute, for the third time this year, we're going to be organizing CyberSec Brussels Leaders Foresight on 24th March in Brussels, as the name itself tells you. We're going to decide. We're going to be speaking with decision makers from the European Parliament, European Commission, European industries there about specific challenges in 4 or 5 main areas that we mapped as the most important for the next few months. When it comes to our goal as the think tank from Central and Eastern Europe, we also always want to bring the perspective from the 3Cs region, from Poland, from this part of the European Union market to the table. And it's important for us, it's important for decision makers that we bring from Poland, for other countries from region, to be part of this discussion at the European Union level. Just to give you a few topics, as I mentioned, we choose to discuss because generally the conference is based on 4 streams. In the first stream, which is a state stream, we're going to be speaking specifically about the challenges when it comes to digital diplomacy. So we've seen also the cybersecurity, and digital is not only the technical part, it's also what's happened on the diplomatic level. You have all of those state-backed attacks, attribution issues, what countries, what European Union should do. European Union published cybersecurity or cyber diplomatic toolbox a few months ago. Therefore, we're going to be discussing that. More on the business side, on the business stream, we're going to be discussing the digital data issues. So we know that all the economy, and it's trivial to say that data is the new oil, of course. Right. But the question is like, what the next step when it comes to public policy in that term. So whether we're going to be deciding our own on, let's say, national level, what kind of regulations, what kind of dynamics we should provide to this digital data market. Or maybe we should work commonly, like as a group of countries on the European level, maybe OECD, maybe United Nations. So that's the, I would say, public policy challenges that have straight impact on the business and even us as citizens on our daily lives.
Well, lots of areas definitely for interesting information and collaboration. It's going to be in Brussels, not to be missed. I know I attended your conferences in Katowice last year, a really interesting forum. So thank you so much, Robert, for that. Thank you guys for watching, and stay safe.
Thank you.